Getting our Georgia geocache. Let's see if we can find it. It's near this dog park somewhere. Looks like maybe it's in the trees. Found it in the woods next to this little playground parking lot. Little Hello Kitty peanut butter jar. We'll put it back. This was a tough one to find because the coordinates on geocaching.com were not quite right. Sometimes if you're in the trees, the signal can bounce around and it's hard to find. So then you have to go back and look at the logs of the other people who have found it. Sometimes they'll leave clues. Nobody says outright where it is, but sometimes they'll leave pictures of a nearby place or tell you, go across from the playground, something like that. If you're not familiar with geocaching, check out our video that we did a few weeks ago. It'll show you all about it and how to find them. But we love doing geocaching. We try to get one in every state. So this was our first geocache find in Georgia. We're only in Georgia here for 1 week, so we're going to try to fit in as many things as we can this weekend. Today we're exploring Jekyll Island, which is part of the Golden Isles section of coastal Georgia. You might remember when we were in South Carolina that I talked about this chain called the Sea Islands that runs down the eastern coast from North Carolina to northern Florida. So this little part of it here in Georgia is called the Golden Isles. You do have to pay to get onto Jekyll Island because it used to be a private club. It was originally a resort island, and it has one of the largest national historical landmark neighborhoods in the country. Just noticed this B+. We found this RV park as we were driving around Jekyll Island. And usually, if we find a random RV park somewhere and it looks like that they are effortless to get into, we will just park and walk around and look at the rigs and see what the atmosphere is like. You can get into a lot of places with just a little bit of gumption.
Just act like you belong there. And a dually doesn't hurt.
That's right. No one's going to question you if you're in a dually, in an RV park.
Yeah, we would have had our bikes with us if we had bikes.
We were just saying that if we had electric bikes, this is a wonderful place to bike. There's so many people on bicycles and rental bikes around here anyway, but would be a really great place for an electric bike too. So we're in the historical district of Jekyll Island now, and all these huge houses and mansions that I'll be showing you were part of the exclusive Jekyll Island Resort Club in the late 1800s, and people like J.P. Morgan and the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts all had houses here. And so now they've opened it up for strolling down by the water, and the houses are beautifully decorated for Christmas. So tons of beautiful houses on this island, and you can definitely feel the eliteness of the culture that was here at the time. And also some littler buildings that were probably employee and staff housing back in the day, but now they're cute little shops. In addition to the historic district that had the old Jekyll Club on it, there's a brand new shopping center here with lots of hotels and shops and restaurants right on the beach. So this is a great location if you want to come for a vacation. Lots of things to do on the island and tons of bike paths. We've seen everybody biking today, and there's paths to go all around the island. Really nice day out. Day 2 of our Golden Isles weekend, we're heading over to St. Simon's Island, just north of Brunswick, about 20 minutes from our campground. Ready to go, Griff? Let's go for a ride. Come on, let's go.
Just saying to Lisa how we're really captivated or find this low country very interesting. It's different than the coastal settings that we're used to up in the Northeast and New England in particular, which is a lot of rocky coast, or even places like, you know, going down to Florida, which everyone can do, that have more sand beaches. It's just very interesting to see all the, you know, the salt marshes, the canals, the waterways. So it's a fun, different setting that I haven't been in for any length of time before, and we're really enjoying it.
Found a little frisbee golf on the island, and Jason always keeps a set of frisbee golf discs in the car for when we see something. He's gonna play a few holes, but we're intrigued by these 3 old guys who are also playing the course today.
So I'm throwing a couple different discs. I haven't done this for a while, but there's actual, and it's not frisbee golf. Frisbee's a brand name and people get all worked up about it, so it's disc golf. But actually there's specialized discs that have different characteristics of how straight they'll fly, if they'll hover at the end, if they kind of skew to one side or the other, and I literally can't remember what these numbers mean. But this, however, is a fairway driver for driving, so it tends to go straighter and further, though it's probably gonna cut one or the other, especially if you know how to throw right, which we'll see how rusty I am. So I'll throw this one. So now I'm gonna use this mid-range one going for that basket over there. All right, now that we're this close to the basket there, I'm going to use it's faded, but you can see it's a putt and approach. So this will float differently. And again, I barely remember how to do this properly, but it's so it doesn't just keep flying through the air and whatever. We'll see. Did you just say throw this and then you'll get the close one?
I'll get the next shot because you're not going to make it in from here.
I'm not going to get it in?
I did.
That is...
Rich. That's rich.
Yeah. Oh, you son of a gun.
Now we get the close one.
Yeah, it's not even close. Griff, leave it. I got a problem. The caddy keeps eating my discs. That was a rough one.
We found this beautiful little church and cemetery, but across the street is something called the Wesley Memorial Garden, and we're learning that Charles and John Wesley, who was the founder of the Methodist denomination in the 1700s, actually preached and worked here on St. Simon Island in the 1730s, before the Methodist Church was founded. So there's a nice little memorial garden and lots of plaques regarding the brothers. First time I've ever seen a playground in a cemetery.
It's the circle of life. I got the whole cradle to grave, literally. Which I actually think is a good idea.
Here on St. Simon's Island, there are 7 tree spirits, little faces carved into the large oak trees here on the island. And we're gonna go on a hunt for them today. This is the first one that we found here at Gascon Park. Here's the last one. We found all 7. That was a fun treasure hunt. Today we're visiting the Hofwyl-Broadfield rice plantation here in Brunswick, Georgia. This is a very large historical site and one of the last remaining plantations in this area. Of course, before the Civil War, there were dozens of plantations around here. This one has survived as a historic site because the family has owned it all the way through to the mid-1900s and then left it to the state after the last remaining survivor, Ophelia Dent, died in 1973. When we got to South Carolina, I had the feeling that there would be more of these preserved plantations and antebellum houses around, so I'm excited to see this today. Now, this house is not a big mansion like you might normally think of, Gone with the Wind kind of thing. It's basically just a 2-story farmhouse with a whole bunch of land right on the marsh here where the rice plantation fields were. They had about 350 slaves here pre-Civil War, and then after the war, when the slaves were freed, many of them stayed here to stay on as paid hired hands to continue to work the fields. And then in the early 1900s, this was turned into a dairy farm and continued that way until 1942. So a lot of interesting history here, and we're having a great time wandering around this beautiful plantation. There are 3 RVs parked here at the Hofwyl-Broadfield plantation, and the woman at the visitor center told us that these people are actually staying here because they are work campers. Work camping is a fascinating subculture, I guess, of RV life, where people go around and in exchange for volunteering their time, either helping out at a campground or a historical site or something like that, they get free camping with hookups. So we've seen a lot of people doing this online. I haven't met anybody in person who does it, but this is really interesting that these RVs are parked right here at the plantation. I don't know what they're doing for the work camping, but what a neat experience. What a great homeschooling experience too. If you have kids and you can do stuff like this, to have a hands-on education. I think these people are work campers. It seems like they're weeding out this little greenery bed here, and they're doing some gardening and landscaping. So fun. There are several outbuildings here that talk about the slave culture of the plantation. And also I find it really interesting that after the Civil War, many of the slaves stayed here as hired workers. So this was the commissary building where they would gather for food and to purchase things. Before the war, this was where the slaves would receive their food and clothing from the plantation owner. But after they were freed, they could then purchase those items here with the wages that they made. And this was the little pay building where they would receive their pay. The docent at the Visitor Center also told us that many of the descendants of the original slaves of this plantation still live nearby in this town. And one of the descendants was actually a servant of the last living family member who still lived here into the 1970s. And when she died, he became a tour guide here at the house until his death. The live oak is the state tree of Georgia, and these are huge trees. Trees that are over 16 feet in girth, so 16 feet around, are considered to be more than 100 years old, and this tree measures over 20 feet around. This plantation house has been left as it was when the last descendant died in 1973, and everything in the house is original, so it's an interesting mix of historical family pieces and also modern 1970s furniture. Well, that's it for our time in the Golden Isles. Thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye!